Now, at dawn on the 24th of February 2022, Putin announced a special military operation. The goal, Putin said, was to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine, a former Soviet country. Ukrainians flagged Putin's aim to erase their 1,000-year national identity, and a stiff resistance began taking shape. We take a look at 5 battles that have shaped Ukraine's war approach. Now, within hours of the invasion, Russia had landed commandos at the Antonov airfield, a cargo base north of Kyiv, as a part of plans to seize the capital. But within a day, Ukrainians had wiped out the elite Russian paratroops and destroyed the landing strip. The Russian armored columns had reached the northern outskirts of Kyiv, but they eventually beat a retreat. A month into the fighting, having failed to break through to Kyiv, the Russian army then withdrew from the northern Ukraine to focus on the east and south. As Moscow's forces retreated from the western suburbs of Kyiv, they left behind scenes of horror. Bodies with their hands tied behind their backs, lying on a single street in the northwestern Kyiv suburb of Bucha. Now, Russia is accused of widespread war crimes, which it denies. The threat of nuclear calamity has hung for months over Russia's war in Ukraine. Russians captured the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant station in early March, the first weeks of the war. The 6-reactor plant is the largest in Europe. It contains stores of used nuclear fuel and radioactive materials. In 2021, the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant produced 23% of Ukraine's electricity. Moscow has transferred the assets and the Ukrainian employees to a Russian company, a move that Kyiv says is illegal appropriation. Then, on April the 21st, Russia claimed to have taken Mariupol. The southeastern port city was relentlessly bombarded and subjected to a brutal siege. The capture of Mariupol was a boost for Russian forces. Russia aims to link up the rebel-held territory in the Donbass with the occupied Crimea peninsula to the south. Around 2,000 Ukrainian fighters held out for nearly a month in the city's sprawling Azovstal steelworks plant, where they were ordered by Kyiv to surrender to the Russians to save their lives. A prisoner swap followed. Now, over the summer, the United States and the EU then stepped up their supplies of heavy weapons to Kyiv, allowing it to stage a fight back. Moscow has been hitting out at the West, flagging NATO intention to prolong the war. In August, a better armed Ukraine then launched a southern counteroffensive, and this around Kherson, the only land gateway to Crimea. Remember, Crimea was annexed by Russia in 2014, and it hosts the Black Sea Fleet. On the 9th of November, Russia then ordered forces to abandon Kherson, the only regional capital that it had taken so far in its invasion. Joyous residents affected the return of the Ukrainian forces. So through the city remains subject to the Russian shelling. The Kherson region is one of 4 Putin declared incorporated into Russia forever. The Ukrainian gains were not restricted to Kherson alone. Zelensky ordered a 2-pronged fight back. After launching Kherson counteroffensive in August, the Ukrainians gunned for Kharkiv. In early September, the Ukrainian forces then reeled off surprising gains in the Kharkiv region. They won back hundreds of towns and villages, and they wrested the sole rail hub supplying Russia's regional front line. Russian forces, reinforced by tens of thousands of fresh recruits and the Wagner mercenaries, began inching forward again in January this year. Ukraine is using shells faster than the West can make them. NATO has begun discussing its request for fighter jets and long-range missiles to go with the promised tanks. An offensive is widely anticipated to unfold in the spring. Now, Bishop, coming back to you, how long do you think it will take NATO to reach a consensus on the fighter jets and the missiles demanded by Ukraine?
Well, it just depends. At first, I think just the way you laid out what has happened up until this point, I think it's important for us to really reiterate just the resilience in the heart and minds of the Ukrainian people as they continue to fight through this humanitarian crisis and really battle for their independence in their very lives. What we're seeing with NATO are the discussions are ongoing. I know right now the American administration, the Biden administration, has said that we are not going to provide any type of fighter jets, the F-16s that the Ukrainian government has requested. What we have done is we will be deploying Patriot missile systems, that's air defense systems to Ukraine, and they will be training in Germany and the Netherlands to ensure that they know how to properly use the technology, and other countries will be sending those types of surface-to-air missile systems as well. So that is a step forward. It's a step in the right direction to ensure that a lot of these soft targets, these civilian targets, are properly protected. But as of right now, we're seeing that we're not going to be sending any type of fighter jets into the area.
Right. And Anas, coming back to you now, we saw that surprise visit by U.S. President Biden arriving in Kyiv. How has this been received by the people of Ukraine as a show of support?
Well, it was a moment to rejoice in Kyiv when President Biden visited, and it was more of a surprise visit. They said that this is the least that the U.S. owes to them, to the people of Ukraine, and it was certainly a heartfelt moment for them because a key ally coming over in person at such an uncertain time, reiterating their commitment. Not just that, but what also has to be kept in mind that this was the first visit by any U.S. president to Kyiv since 2008, the last being by the then U.S. President George W. Bush in 2008. So a decade and a half later, we're seeing a visit at such a crucial time where arms have been talked about, a new aid package has been announced. So it was certainly a moment to rejoice with, and it was certainly a reaffirmation on the part of the people of Ukraine, at least from the United States, that irrespective of the circumstances, United States will continue to stand by with them. Alison?
Right, Anas. And Bishop, last but certainly not least, when will there be peace?
That is the million-dollar question right now, isn't it? What we understand is that NATO allies, to include and to be led by the United States, their support for the Ukrainian people, Ukrainian government is just unwavering. We will not stop supporting them until we see a free and independent Ukraine, to include the Crimean Peninsula. And there is no timetable for this. This is an entrenched fight. This is the continuation. It's already been a year that we've seen that Russian forces believed it was going to be a very short fight, and they would be welcomed in as some type of unifying force, that they would be welcomed as conquerors. And that's just not the case. The Ukrainian people are going to fight them tooth and nail all the way to the end, and we're going to do everything we can to ensure that we properly support them as they continue to battle for their independence. And there's just no timetable on that. Peace will come when we are able to push back the Russian aggression.
Bishop, Anas, thank you both for joining us on this show.